Okay, we're live. Hello everyone! Hello everyone in Facebook and YouTube world as well. Welcome to the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. I'm Thundercloud, Repairian. My mum calls me James, washing away the garbage, leaving rainbows after rains. Let's have some fun and play some poetry games. Tonight I've got two new poets here for the Hall of Fame portraits that I've drawn. One of them is Rosemary Dobson, born the 18th of June 1920 and passed away on the 27th of June 2012. The other one is not exactly an Australian poet, William Henry Ogilvie, born in Scotland in 1869. Came to Australia in 1889, spent 12 years living in Australia, then went back to Scotland, died in 1963, so he lived a pretty good 90-something-year-old life. But he did write, he loved the Australian bush, he worked as a ringer, as a stockman, on many stations throughout the country. A lot of his poetry was published in Australian newspapers and sent back to Australia through, up until the 1920s, until his book, The Australian and Other Verses, was published. And the other book that I've got that I'll be reading out is Rosemary Dobson's book. So to start off with tonight, I'm going to start with Rosemary Dobson first. And this first one is called, the book's called The Cock Crow. This book was sent to me by Mr. Doyle of Engadine. I put a call out there for donations of poetry books to the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. This one's particularly special because it's a first edition, and as I discovered this morning, it's signed by the poet inside the cover as well. So quite a unique book, one of a kind. So I'm going to read out the book's called Cock Crow, and I'll be reading three pieces from this. The first one is the title of the book, Cock Crow. Wanting to be myself, alone, between the lit house and the town, I took the road and at the bridge turned back and walked the way I'd come. 3 times I took that lonely stretch. 3 times the dark trees closed round me. The night absolved me of my bonds. Only my footsteps held the ground. My mother and my daughter slept, one life behind and one before. And I that stood between denied their needs in shutting to the door. And walking up and down the road, knew myself separate and alone, cut off from human cries, from pain and love that grows about the bone. Too brief illusion, thrice for me, I heard the cock crow on the hill and turned the handle of the door, thinking I knew his meaning well. The next one's more prosaic than poetry, but still poetry, called The Dolphin. Amphitrite, the Nereid, outshining in grace and celerity, each of her 49 sisters, courted by Neptune, slipped shyly from wave crest to wave crest, deft in avoidance. Ardent pursuant, the amorous king of the ocean, cried out for assistance, to whom but the keen-witted, eloquent dolphin. Personable, sleek, as fitted to be an emissary as a swallow-tailed, top-hatted gentleman pausing on the steps to the court of St. James, versed in the 99 arts of diplomacy, needling, little instruction, sublime, disarming. He stayed the fugitive sea nymph, gently he won her, with praise of her lover, and gently, gently he drew her in frizzen of wavelets to Neptune, her king and her consort. Suddenly, everywhere, people are talking about dolphins. They call them the sheepdogs of the sea, applaud their ability to communicate with one another in the language of dolphins. How amenable they are to directions, helpful to man. We hear they will round up schools of edible fishes, indicate the presence of plankton, deliver a message. I deplore the thought of a kind of aquatic postman. Neptune knew better, with proper regard for the dignity of the dolphin, and for services given, he had him translated to heaven. At the levee of night observe him with decorations, resplendent, discreet, the dean of constellations. And finally, The Shell by Rosemary Dobson. I met a man drowned... Sorry, I'll start that again. The Shell. I met a drowned man from the sea. His look was pale, his eyes were wild. Sea water ran upon his skin. Listen, he said, and held a shell. Mine enemy is locked within. We fought. He pressed my eyeballs in. But I had strength enough for this, to kick his flanks and kicking rise on a last gasping breath of air. I stuffed him in this hollow shell. Hark how he moans, the drowned man said, and held the shell against my ear. I heard the sullen captive roar, as though there beat upon a shore long thunders of Atlantic swell. I have an enemy, I cried, and he is terrible and strong, stronger than the ocean, wilder, far. His name is Fear. I know him well. How should I lock him in a shell? Rosemary Dobson. All right, the next one by W.H. Ogilvie, William Henry Ogilvie, from The Australian and Other Verses. The Bushman. God, the day he fashioned them, toiled to make them true, hand and head and heart of them, blood and bone and thew, set them in the foremost rank, giants' work to do. God, the day he fashioned them, bred them to their sires, supple as their bullock whips, tough as twisted wires, filled the sturdy brains of them with his battle fires. Then, when he fashioned them, tried them for his pride, sent his droughts and chastened them, sent his flames to chide, sent his floods to harry them, wasting far and wide. But the strength he set in them braced his fighting brood, bravely face to face with him, shoulder firm they stood. Then the God who fashioned them knew his work was good. So when he has gathered them, God will not forget, high at the right hand of him, he shall have them set. paying them for pride of them sevenfold his debt. So that was called Bushman, that one. The next one's called Sheep Country. I guess this kind of goes a little bit with being up here in Gyra, land of the Lamb and Potato Festival, which has been cancelled this year because of the COVID thing. However, and so has the Lamb and Potato Bush Dance Friday night because of no dancing rules. So it would be just a bush if it was on. Sheep Country. Flame of the heather dying, fires of the bracken lit, winds of October sighing over the gold of it. Clouds on the hilltop trailing, shadows caught in the glen, wah ups to the maul and wailing, sorrows unguessed of men. Grey moor gathered beside us, blue moor meeting the sky, high peaks set to guide us, low hills letting us by. Rough-topped grey walls creeping out to the grey skyline, woods and within them sleeping, tasselled and storm-tossed pine. Tracks in the heath around us, only the sheep have trod, nothing to bind or bound us, save the wide skies of God. We'll finish off now with, we've got two more. Contentment. The gold leaf said to the brown, let us take hands and go down on the wind's wings, for summer is spent and the sap runs slow. We have served our time. Let us be content. Let us take hands and go. The west wind past them heard and paused, each leaf like a nesting bird, launched timidly and was gently caught and low to the earth's breast borne. On the grass they lay, a brown leaf and a gold, all the pride and glory of them come to naught, and made one with the mould. Earth mourned, but they knew no grief, neither the brown nor the yellow leaf, even when the broom swept them to the fire. See, they said, to what honour we are brought. Are not these grey cloaks that we sought, and the red shoes of our desire? All right. The final one is Drought by William Henry Ogilvie. My road is fenced with the bleached white bones and strewn with the blind white sand. Beside me a suffering, dumb world moans on the breast of a lonely land. On the rim of the world the lightnings play and the heat waves quiver and dance, and the breath of the wind is a sword to slay, and the sunbeams each a lance. I have withered the grass where my hot hooves tread. I have whitened the sapless trees. I have driven the faint heart rains ahead to hide in their soft green seas. I have bound the plains with an iron band. I have stricken the streams dumb to the charge of the vanguards. Who shall stand? Who stay when my cohorts come? The dust storms follow and wrap me round, the hot winds ride as a guard. Before me the fret of the swamps is bound, and the way of the wild fowl barred. I dropped the whips on the loose flanked steers, I burnt their necks with the bow, and the green hide rips and the iron sears where the staggering lean beasts go. I lure the swagman out of the road to the gleam of a phantom lake. I have laid him down, I have taken his load, and he sleeps till the dead men wake. My hurrying hooves in the night go by, and the great flocks bleat their fear, and follow the curve of the creeks burnt dry, and the plains scorched brown and sere. The worn men start from their sleepless rest, with faces haggard and drawn. They curse the red sun into the west, and they curse him out of the dawn. They have carried their outpost far, far out, but blade of my sword for a sign, I am the master, the dread King Drought, and the great West Land is mine. Alright, so we've had a wet year. It's definitely not a drought year this year, but before I go on any further, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we stand and present this poetry, the Banbai and the Kamilaroi people, and acknowledge the continuing connection to the land of the elders past, present, emerging, and acknowledge that sovereignty's never been ceded. Moving right along, who would like to go next? Doug, would you want to come on up?
Wherever, mate.
All right, and then I'll ask Jeff to come on up. If that's all right. Yeah.
That's good.
So welcome up, Doug.
Thank you. I'm just figuring there's not so many people here tonight in the factory here, but there's millions of you out there, and I know that. I've got to be home. Okay. I've got two to read tonight. Bear with me. One's mine and one's a friend who died in the States, a young woman actually. So I like to do them both. Don't know what to do first. Nobody cares. I'll have a go at the one I had to go at. Yeah, it's curious because words come into my psyche and I think back, and this particular word took me back to my dad. My dad was a bit of a wordsmith. I don't know whether I picked up his words or his habits, but I got a bit of him in me, no doubt. Now this reading is, the title of this reading is called Humble Stroke Hubris. Sounds like a contradiction, and it probably is. I'll just put a little bit at the top I've got. I read, at the start of the virus, I got a few books to read, and I was reading a trilogy about the expeditions of Alexander the Great. 3 books written by this Italian guy. I didn't know much about Alexander, but it was quite interesting to read, and he was an amazing figure maybe, but he also had his issues, like all of us. I got issues, past the tissues, all that stuff. Anyway, I'll just read this. With acknowledgement to Alexander the Great, was hubris his Achilles' heel? The oracles would help him feel. He was always jumping around trying to find an oracle. Anyway, here we go. Humble hubris. This humble hubris don't compute, cannot make sense, you see. What am I, you ask of me? Not much of humble, overdose of rumble. Hubris keeps me warring, can also make me boring. My dad knew words, he taught me strict. He really was quite smart. See quote, my dad. The hubris of that politician precludes him from such position. Hubris was a word for me that caused me to inquire. I asked myself, hey dear old dad, is hubris a condition that really you know well? Treat this with lots of rigour. You'll find you'll have great vigour. I like to get at me, Dad, you know. Okay. I rhyme my words, they sound so strong. I know, I know, I know. I know what's right, I know what's wrong. How cocky can I grow? This pride that comes before fall does not apply to me. My bravery is not in doubt, I'll crush you underfoot. My godlike ways are sure and proud, the word meek makes me cringe. Now, hang on, Google. Are you so sure of this true path you're on? How can I change this grim fate? The wrath of gods and answers testing may not let me find. The love that I am missing may finally get a hearing. I'll come around without much sound. Now I was writing this and my friend, I read it out and she couldn't hear me. But this is how it was originally. I'll come around without much sound, your gentleness will do it. And she heard the gentleness, so I don't care what you want to hear. But it's gentleness or gentleness, whatever, I'm getting help. The light comes on and sends away the punishment inside. Humility provides the deal. Peace is what I feel. And this thing here, this poem here, what did you do? James said before, it's maybe not exactly a poem, but it's kind of it. It's a story and it's one page. So, I was living in the States in 2013 and this young lady was visiting her mother where I was living at. She come from somewhere up near Vancouver, west of Vancouver, somewhere on an island up there. She was 22 and she was an environmentally aware young person. And the postscript of this is that she died in a house fire about a year or 6 months after this was written. Her name was Georgia Clapp. Yeah. Anyway, I got to know her a little and she was a good friend for a bit. So I'll try and read this. It's a bit not easy to read. I think I can do it. I'll do my best. She says, painting a new picture. If I may be so bold, nature, you are the platform of my world. And there's a line here I don't understand, it might have helped me. You are the platform of my world. All my experiences and thoughts are birthed from you. So if you are the mother of my thoughts, how can science claim you the daughter of your own child? Anyway, she talks a bit about what she said. She says, lying on my back upon your front, I surrender, exhale and hope, to let go of those thoughts for one moment, to stop conceptualizing and analyzing you. What comes is an image. Humanity separating the colours of nature, organising them into three, red, yellow, blue, then recreating you on a white canvas, painting an aesthetically pleasing, socially accepted, efficiently organised, productive product of you, nature. Yeah. Because the disorganised, uniquely differentiated, brutally and beautifully honest picture made humanity uncomfortable. This painting tells me everything I should be, while the original is everything I am. Therefore, how do I restore who I am from who I have become? How do I restore who you are, nature, from who you have become? Last little bit, she says, I recognise the paint, the brush and the canvas. And I accept that we cannot return to who we once were. Rather, together, we must paint a new picture with our view, with our gaze forward. Georgia.
Okay, I'm going to invite Jeff up in a moment. The birds in the bush or computer games. The sounds of cicadas or campfire, flames, bleat of a sheep, birds sing, moo of a cow, butterflies, flowers, sunsets, living in the now. That little quatrain I wrote last week. I'll just read that first line again. The birds in the bush or computer games. Jeff, please come on up. Geoffrey Kendall. Everybody,
Goodness me. Well, I too was reminded of my father. And he did have a bent for rhythm and rhyme. In fact, he was a mariner, a seaman. He went to ship in the early 20th century when he was a teenager, and went, I believe it was HMS Worcester in West England, in Plymouth or somewhere there. Anyway, now this is not about him, but nonetheless, to give you an idea, he had a ukulele and a banjo mandolin, and he played the piano roughly, but he sang also. And as an example, he wrote about his Uncle Jack. Some people called the Jolly Tar. He sailed his ship here and there, but always near and far. One night, while he was drowsing, there came a dreadful gale. Poor Jack was washed overboard and swallowed by a whale. After 40 years or so of wandering about, 40 days or so of wandering about, he seized that whale by the tail and turned him inside out. Okay, but the one I'm going to read, and he used to sing these when I was a teenager, and later I played the piano and he would sing along, whatever, it was quite memorable. And this one he called the prune song, as in prunes. Oh, pardon me, I need to speak, so. I think it originally had 3 verses or 4. And was working from memory. I was pretty good, except I've had to adapt a bit in the middle. Please excuse it if it rumbles. Righto, the prune song. In the kingdom of the fruit, the prune is shunned by others. He is not allowed to mingle with the crowd. Though he's never on display with all his highbrow brothers, he never seems to mind. To this fact he's resigned. For no matter how young a prune may be, he has a heart of stone. Nowadays, we often gaze on women over 50 without a single trace of wrinkles on their face. Doctors go and take their dough to make them young and nifty. But doctors I defy to tell me just why. No matter how young a prune may be, he's always full of wrinkles. Baby prunes look like their dad, but not wrinkled quite so bad. People get them on their face, but prunes have them every place. But Mr. Prune on this won't dwell, because he knows real well that no matter how young a prune may be, hot water makes him swell.
thank you, Geoffrey. Geoffrey Kendall, everyone.
Yeah.
And Geoffrey's dad. So I'm just going to ask, any of the people who have recently walked in, will you be doing anything tonight?
No.
James?
Not sure.
Not sure. All right, I'll let you know. When you will, so will. Oh, wonderful. All right. So after this, I'll ask Gladys to come on up, and then Bronwyn. Okay. This is something I started writing this morning and disappeared on me. So I had to, like, I don't know, somehow it sort of, I'd get it halfway through it and then these could not be posted. I don't want my empty V. No mass media propaganda, news to make you cower in fright. The medium has become the message. No holy woe celebrity, buy, consume, stuffed toy panda, blue light hypnotised at night, following rabbits down the passage. Electronic boxes, minds not free, programmed so the mind won't wander, fear of war and children's plight, can't engage, put into rage. Selling time and energy, sunset watched from a veranda, no time for love but time for flight, welcome to the panic age. Gladys Wilson, everybody.
I moved that, he knows I'm short.
You're not short, you're just upside down tall.
Yes, I'm very short. I'm only short one end.
Yeah.
Fun size, Glade, fun
Yes,
size.
that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. It's lovely to have you all in here tonight because this is what makes these things go round. And our wonderful musician over there later too. I look forward to his stuff. But anyhow, I'm going to do, this is one that I wrote the Drover's Curse and I put a couple of things in here that are the same. But this is just called Spirit of the Bush. Nothing can compare to the beauty of this wide open space here in the great Australian bushland that could never be replaced. In nature's paradise though, we seem to have it all. Our precious flora and fauna, plus the magpie's early morning call. As the evening shadows creeps across and smoke from the campfire fills the air, out in this wonderful part of the world, without worry or a care. Gum trees on the hillside now awaken, as another day dawns anew, while a carpet of wildflowers and ferns all sparkle with the morning dew. But there is nothing better than being in this bushland that we love, with the moon sailing overhead and each star shining brightly from above. Here in all this wilderness, where we can surely dream, but only our famous artist, Namatjira, could paint this magnificent scene. Many can still remember good times out in the beaten track, carrying their swags here in the great outback. With those days now finally gone, but the ghost of Bushmen from our past, their spirits will live on. Now looking at our rugged landscape, far as the eye can see, but the spirit of the bush will always be home to me.
Thank you. Now Gladys might not be overly large, but she's got a heart bigger than Farlap's. And really. No, I mean that, and you all know that because everyone here knows that because they know Gladys. And last week she's been so generous to crochet a really fantastic big tablecloth with seahorses for the Seahorse Medicine Cafe here at the Poetry Hall of Fame. And it's what I consider and other people around here consider a really unique piece of artwork. The time, the hours, what's come into it, what's gone into it that Gladys has put into that are just incredible. So if you haven't seen it yet, come on down here and go into the Seahorse Medicine Cafe, check out the crochet tablecloth. It's like about that big, and it's hexagonal, and it's got seahorses and shells, and it's absolutely, it's a living treasures piece of art. Like, it's for someone that is still doing that kind of artwork in 2022. Is absolutely fantastic. So I just want to thank you,
Thank you.
from the bottom of my heart. Bronwyn, please come on up.
Yes, we're certainly coming up with.
Well, this is really kind of amazing that I'm standing here from memory offering you a poem I wrote when I was 15 or 16. Hopelessly romantic, hopelessly idealistic. And my mum used to grow really beautiful roses, and I loved to get up before the dawn as the sun was coming, or soon coming. And I used to drink the dew from the petals to tip them. I was just a dreamer, you know. So it's just a tiny little thing. I've got no hubris about it at all. So it's called Silence. I understand silence and want to silent be. All of a velvet rose deep in the heart of me. Roses deep in the garden slept in the cold night. I helped the sun to warm them in the early morning light. Dew from red dark petals I drank when I was a child, and now when I cry the tears come from a wild dark rose. Well, I felt a bit as though I shouldn't just read the
that's excellent.
Yeah,
I'm glad you did.
Thank you. Gladys was very supportive. But look, so I'll read one more from the Poet Saints. That's my love. Rumi, one of the Poet Saints from Persia. And I truly love this poem. Rumi, it's called Who Says Words with My Mouth? All day I think about it, then at night I say it. Where did I come from, and what am I supposed to be doing? I have no idea. My soul is from elsewhere, I'm sure of that. And I intend to end up there. To end up there. Now he's talking about, in the next verse, drunkenness. That is really drunk. That drunkenness he's talking about, and the tavern he's talking about, is the devotional bliss that these enlightened beings felt, the joy, drunk with joy. It's not booze. So, next verse. This drunkenness began in some other tavern. When I get back around to that place, I'll be completely sober. Meanwhile, I'm like a bird from another continent, sitting in this aviary. The day is coming when I fly off. But who is it now in my ear who hears my voice? Who says words with my mouth? Who looks out with my eyes? What is the soul? I cannot stop asking. If I could taste one sip of an answer, I could break out of this prison for drunks. I didn't come here of my own accord, and I can't leave that way. whoever brought me here will have to take me home. This poetry, I never know what I'm going to say. I don't plan it. When I'm outside the saying of it, I get very quiet and rarely speak at all.
Well, so the next young follower I'm going to invite up here is someone, I mentioned Farlap before, Farlap's Heart.
Yeah, that's where I had trouble getting in my door.
Well, Rob Baker's grandfather, was it?
Yep.
Rode Farlap
Twice.
twice. There you go.
Including when he won his maiden win.
So, welcome.
1929.
So come on up, Rob. I've got some music for us. Salt, that's pretty much the same thing, isn't it?
He's sitting there.
No, is it salt like there's another version of salt?
Yeah, it's Romanized form.
Okay.
We're going to do 3 old songs. An Irish song, an English song, and an Australian song. Okay, this is called the Irish Rover. Oh, the English one? I think it's even older than that. Yeah. Come in. Okay, The Girl with the Black Velvet Band by Anonymous. This is an Australian one. It's one of my favourite songs of all time. The Roebuck's Hero by Anonymous. I come from the south, my name is Will, with the shears of
I could shear 100 sheep a day, but one fine day I'll show them the way, and I'll prove I'm a rival shearer. If I don't shear a tally before I go, the shears and stone in the river I'll run. I'll never open sawmills, not take another blow, till I'll prove I'm a rival shearer. There's a bloke on the board, he's got yellow skin, a very long nose and he shaves on the chin, a voice like a billy goat pissing in a tin, and of course he's a rival shearer. If I don't shear a tally before I go, the shears and stone in the river I'll throw. I'll never open sawmills, not take another blow, till I prove I'm a rival shearer. Oh, I'll make a splash, and I won't say when. I'll hop off the tail and the link to the pen. I'll ring a shear at 5 in it, I'll be shearing 10, and I'll prove I'm a rival shearer. If I don't shear a tally before I go, the shears and stone in the river I'll throw. I'll never open sawmills, not take another blow, till I prove I'm a rival shearer. There's a bloke up north, a fellow I heard, with a face like a dried up buffalo turd. If you think that's bad, then your heart is bad, and of course she's a rival shearer. If I don't shear a tally before I go, the shears and stone in the river I'll throw. I'll never open sawmills, not take another blow, till I prove I'm a rival shearer.
That's actually like got to be one of my favourite lines. There's a bloke from the north, so I've heard, who has a face like a dried up buffalo turd.
You think that's bad? You ought to see his bird.
Yeah.
And of course she's a Rybuck shearer.
Okay. And what was the other one about a voice like Billy pissing in a...
Yeah, he's got yellow skin. There's a bloke on the board, he's got yellow skin, very long nose, shades on the chin, voice like a billy goat, pissing in the tin.
Yeah.
And of course he's a Rybuck shearer.
Of course he's a right
course.
shearer. Alright, well, I'm going to invite Paul Wood up now to give us his version of whatever he's going to do tonight. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, James. Thank you, poets. And I'd just like to say that this song I'm singing tonight is refers to, I think, the 7 classic stories of mankind in a way. And one of those stories of mankind is leaving home and returning. Again, this one's another melancholy, sad, tear-jerking bluegrass song from the great place and the great era. Again, from the Stanley Brothers, Ralph and Carter. And I'll dedicate this song to James, seeing as how he's so woefully away from our homeland, Queensland. He's a fellow Queenslander. We're all stuck down here. We don't know where we're going, but we're here regardless. This one's called Rank Stranger. I wandered again to my home in the mountain, Where years were done, I was happy and free. I looked for my friends, but I never could find them. I found they were all rank strangers to me. Everybody I met seemed to me a rank stranger. No mother, no dad, not a friend could I see. They knew not my face, and I knew not their faces. I found they were all rank strangers to me. They've all moved away, said the voice of a stranger, to a beautiful home across the bright crystal sea. One beautiful day I will join them in heaven, where no one will be a stranger to me. Everybody I met seemed to me a rank stranger. No mother, no dad, not a friend could I see. They knew not my name, and I knew not their faces. I found they were all rank strangers to me.
Well, I'm going to invite Gabriella up in a moment. I was talking with Rob earlier about why some of my Facebook posts just magically disappear when they're half written. And this could be why. It's called a fictional dream. I followed a white bunny down a bunny hole and found a man named Lee Harvey Oswald. He said to me, I didn't shoot JFK, and that these are the games the CIA play. The Queen of England was eating baby hearts. Shit got weird, and this is where it all starts. Tweedledum made a call on the telephone to Tweedledee to come and get some adrenochrome. The next thing, I followed that bunny to heaven where DARPA and the CIA were planning 9/11. MK Ultra and MK Naomi were planning a scare and about to release bio-warfare everywhere. Perhaps maybe this could be why my on what do they call it?
Possibly.
CIA book, FBI book, Facebook. Here is the news. There's an amazing new variant of horse. It's a pink flying unicorn, of course, made by crossing a rhino and a pink bunny, a dragonfly and a horse, and it's not funny. You should not laugh at this genetic piracy. The TV told me, and it's not a conspiracy. Everyone knows the TV never lies. Ad break, eat Auntie Mary's vegan pork pies. The pink flying unicorn has a big spike. Our reporter on the ground, over to you, Mike. Hi, I'm Mike for BS News. This unicorn is fierce. Oh my God, I've just seen this unicorn pierce 50 babies and a puppy with its unicorn horn. Stay at home, wear a mask, I'm here to warn you in order to protect yourself. Eat goanna thighs, consume, obey, and the government never lies. Okay, thank you very much. And I'll invite us all up. And that's exactly right.
That's funny.
Thank you very much.
Oh, look,
I
I sort of,
that's really funny.
I decided to read this during the week, and it seems to be following a bit of a theme here today with the nautical themes going on, people moving away and coming home, and off to Van Diemen's Land and all of that. I'd finished my pond and I got some guppies, but before I got the guppies, I was like out, and so many mozzie larvae in there, So I went to get me sieve, and it brought this to mind. It's called the Jumblies. They went to sea in a sieve, they did. In a sieve they went to sea. In spite of all their friends could say, on a winter's morn, on a stormy day, in a sieve they went to sea. And when the sieve turned round and round, and everyone cried, "You'll all be drowned," they cried aloud, "Our sieve ain't big, but we don't care a button. We don't care a fig. In a sieve we'll go to sea." Far and few are the land where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. They sailed away in a sieve, they did. In a sieve they sailed so far, with only a beautiful pea green veil to put, tied with a ribbon by way of a sail to a small tobacco pipe mast. And everyone said who saw them go, "Oh, won't they be soon upset, you know, for the sky is dark and the voyage is long, and happen what may, it's extremely wrong in a sieve to sail so fast." Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. The water, it soon came in, it did. The water, it soon came in. So to keep them dry, they wrapped their feet in a pinky paper all folded neat, and they fastened it down with a pin. And they passed the night in a crockery jar, and each of them said, "How wise we are! Let the sky be dark and the voyage be long, yet we can never think we are rash or wrong." While around in our sieve we spin, far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. All night long they sailed away, and when the sun went down, they whistled and warbled a moony song to the echoing sound of a coppery gong in the shade of the mountains brown. Oh, Timballo, how happy we are when we live in a sieve and a crockery jar, and all night long in the moonlight pale we sail away with a pea-green sail in the shade of the mountain brown. Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. They sailed to the western sea, they did, to the land all covered with trees, and they brought an owl and a useful cart, and a pound of rice and a cranberry tart, and a hive of silvery bees, and they brought a pig and some jackdaws, and a lovely monkey with lollipop paws, and 40 bottles of ringberry, and no end of Stilton cheese. I just thought that was the oddest thing of all in the whole poem. Far and few are the land where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue when they went to sea in a sieve. And in 20 years, they all came back. In 20 years or more. And everyone said, "How tall they've grown." For they've been to the lakes and the Torrible Zone and the hills of the Crankly Bore, and they drank their health and gave them a feast of dumplings made of beautiful yeast. And everyone said, if we only live, we too will go to sea in a sieve, to the Crankly Bore. Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. That was Edward Lear did that, who's responsible, of course, as we know, for all the limericks and stuff. And it's about going to America from Europe. Yeah. So yeah, I've got another one. But before I do, I thought you might all like little I don't know who likes tongue twisters here, but I've got a really nice sort of one. It's called Betty. It's a bit embellished from the normal Betty Bot, but it's here we go. Betty Botter bought a bit of butter But the bit of butter Betty Botter bought was bitter, so Betty Botter bought a bit of better butter to make that bit of bitter butter Betty Botter bought better.
Say again.
Betty Botter bought a bit of butter, but the bit of butter Betty Botter bought was bitter, so Betty Botter bought a bit of better butter to make the bit of butter Betty bought better. Okay, and this one's just a short little romantic thing. I call it it's called The Kiss. And that's sort of just about having a kiss, I suppose. The place I go to when we kiss has depth beyond my experience. And with each kiss, one might think that familiarity would lessen that beyond. Instead, expression expands within exponentially. Without is vanquished, words from my mouth slain by that kiss. Sensation removes me from all intentions. I am relieved. I am free.
Thank you, Saul Caffarella. Just going to ask James, are you wanting me to do one or not? You don't have to. Don't feel
I've got a little bit of nerves, but that's with me, so.
Oh, good. All right. Well,
Yeah, you just shudder.
yeah.
Kind of rush.
Well, then I'll finish off with two of my own. The first one is about a fella called Phil McCall. Phil McCall. He's a peaceful place is Froggy Flat, and my story's funny about a man named Phil McCall who fell head first in the dunny. It was a dark and lonely night, and this is not a joke. As Phil walked to the toilet, the dunny made a croak. He turned his phone torch on and opened up the door, and as he walked inside, the dunny croaked once more. The dunny kept on croaking in the middle of the night. He shone his torch about to find everything all right. It was a long drop compost with not a pleasant smell, and as he opened up the lid, he tripped and his phone fell. It was dark in the dunny, but he knew his phone was right. It had landed on the sawdust and Phil could see the light. He went back to the kitchen and got a pair of tongs. His feet were cold, and so he put on a pair of thongs. In the dark, he couldn't see that the thongs belonged to his wife. They were too small and the cause of the coming strife. His wife awoke to an empty bed and also needed to pee, and in the dark she donned Phil's thongs because she couldn't see. In Froggy Flat, the dunny is down the garden path, and in Phil's big thongs Mrs. McCall slipped and fell flat on her ass. Phil was head first in the toilet, and he was leaning in, reaching for his phone, when Mrs. McCall burst in, saw her thongs on Phil, and she began to yell. And in surprise, Phil lost his grip, and that was when he fell. Head first down the dunny and landed on his phone. He wiped it off, and that was when he found he wasn't alone. There inside the dunny was a giant green tree frog staring him in the face and croaking on a log. Mrs. Mac looked down the hole and said, "What can I do? I'm busting for a pee and I really need to poo. I've got a turtle head and it's starting to poke out. Call the SES, you stupid woman!" Phil began to shout. Mrs. Mac got angry, pulled up a nightie and had a sit. she let it rip, and Phil McCall got covered in more shit. She went back to the kitchen, made a cup of tea, then she called the SES and all Phil's mates to come around and see. Well, they had to dig him out because Phil was firmly stuck with a pump, an excavator and the local sewage truck. That afternoon Phil was freed and he gave a happy shout. He'd been stuck in shit for 14 hours before they finally dug him out. A peaceful place is Froggy Flat, but you won't find Phil McCall. The locals now refer to Phil McCall as Fill Me Hole. Alright, there's only one more that I've got to do tonight, actually two more that I'm going to do. And no, I'm just going to do one more. This was one I wrote just this last week. Someone on one of the poetry groups that I belong to on Facebook asked, what colour is poetry? The colour of poetry. If poetry were a colour, it would be a multifaceted rainbow. Red sunsets of beauty, of anger, and pristine as white as falling snow. Orange of the desert plains, yellow like sunflowers, changing hues of fiery flames. Grey clouds bringing showers. Magenta like a summer rose, ochre like the land and sand, peacock tails when they pose, emerald green.
This is your phone ringing, but there's no hurry or rush. If it's really important, they'll leave a message and you'll get back to them later, so there's no hurry or rush. This is your phone ringing and there's no hurry or rush. You can get back to them later.
Bottoms, a golden sandy beach. The browns of nightingales, soft purple lavender hues, blues of the blue whales, wisteria and burnt bamboo. Pastel green and also mint, the liquid black of writing ink. Don't forget baby pink. Poetry's a rainbow to make you think. Thank you everybody for coming. Thank you Gladys, Geoffrey, Rob, Doug, Bronwyn, Sol, Paul and audience. And you can catch up on Facebook or YouTube. It'll be uploaded to YouTube later and on the Facebook page of the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, James.
You're welcome.